Hi, hello, and welcome to this week's pet pairing. I'm just going to immediately get on to doing my makeup because I'm running a little bit behind. I want to put just a little bit of the Auric Glow Last before I actually go in with any sort of other makeup to conceal slash hydrate a little bit underneath my eyes. And lately I've really been enjoying applying this product just with my fingers, just like gently pushing it right underneath my eyes without really tugging on the skin too much, for some extra hydration, and I think today mostly for some also extra coverage. And now I'm going to let it sit a bit and mix with the rest of the skincare that I put on, because I did my Foreo mask treatment and I also already applied my sunscreen, and I'm going for like a ultra hydrated base today because I've been congested since Sunday and my skin is starting to get really dry. Whenever I get really congested, it's not just the skin around the nose that's really suffering, but I feel like because the tissue also touches here around this part of your face, my skin here also gets really dry, and then it makes my foundation look really ugly there. So I figured extra hydration would not hurt. And it's very strange. At first I thought probably I just have a cold, because I know a lot of viruses have been making rounds recently. A lot of my colleagues have been sick over the past couple of weeks, and I thought, am I really going to get that lucky and get away with it? So when I started to like experience a bit of like, I feel like I'm getting congested type of thing on Sunday, I thought, oh, I'm not going to get away with it. By the way, next I'm going to take the Prada Reveal Foundation in the shade LN5. And I sort of expected that other symptoms will follow, because that's usually what happens when you get a bit congested. Soon after that your throat starts hurting, maybe you have a bit of a fever, you know, general malaise. None of that really happened. It's really just been the congestion and the sneezing. So since yesterday I've had a low-key doubt that maybe it's allergies, but it's way too early for my allergies to be already, you know, playing up, because I do have hay fever, but I have a very specific period when my hay fever is at its peak, and that's usually between the end of May all throughout June and like the first week or two of July. So we're about 2 months too early right now. So I have absolutely no idea what is going on. And so today, as an experiment, I actually decided to take a antihistamine. I didn't really want to, because on the other side I get really sleepy from antihistamines, but you know, if it relieves a little bit the congestion symptoms, then maybe it is an allergic reaction, but it beats me to what. And I'm not even going to try to cover up here the redness around my nose, because I'm going to continue blowing my nose throughout the rest of the day, and I think the more product you put on, the more like messy it gets over there, because it clings to all the dry spots. So I would rather just, you know, look like I have a cold rather than try to cover it up. I'm going to take the Dior Skin Forever Concealer in the shade 1N. So, you know, if you have autoimmune conditions, you will know that it's not like if you have an allergy, it's set in stone what you're allergic to, and you will never develop allergies towards something else. It's very well possible that at any point in time you will develop an allergy to something that you were not allergic before. It's not like your immune system makes an appointment to let you know, hey, by the way, just so you know, I've decided that I'm going to be allergic to birch trees now. Good luck with that. So, who knows? But it is really annoying, because if I don't really have any other symptoms, I'm just going to work. But these days, you know, if you look suspicious and snotty at work, people may give you the stink eye, because they might think, why are you here sick? Since COVID, I think mentality has changed quite a bit around going to work sick. I think before COVID, going to work sick would have basically earned you a medal of bravery, whereas now you're definitely going to get the stink eye for spreading infections around. This foundation seems to work quite well with different sorts of powders, and I'm really focusing now on the Dior Backstage powder in the shade 2N. You can see that like most of the grid is now completely visible, so I have to really like scrape around whatever is left around the edges here, which is really not my favorite. Whenever a powder reaches this stage, it becomes quite difficult to pick up, and I start to get really annoyed. But I'm going to try to use as much of this as possible before I retire this powder, and then I can finally take out my new ambient lighting from Hourglass, which I haven't had in my rotation in a few years. I'm excited for that. I'm going to quickly do my brows with the Too Faced Laminating Brow Wax. Nothing extraordinary, just going to brush the hairs of my brows upwards a bit, and that will be it. I do think I forgot to mention when I was applying my eyeshadow primer, but you did see me applying an eyeshadow primer, and it is as usual my Depotted Inglot eyeshadow base. For bronzer today, I'm going to take the Hermes bronzer in the shade 01 Tottori. I'm still not sure how to pronounce that. I've been using this since I bought it a couple of days ago, just because I'm trying to make up my mind how I feel about it. And I don't know that much has changed in terms of my opinion since my initial impressions. It is a lovely powder. It looks beautiful on the skin, it blends out beautifully, it has a little bit of that, you know, blurring property to it. But I can't say that so far I'm really blown away, and because a major part of the reason why I bought this was for the packaging, and I was a bit disappointed by how cheap the packaging feels, or like not cheap, but not as luxurious as I was hoping for it. I think that I am not super impressed with, I continue to just not be super impressed by this powder. It's a lovely powder, that's about it. What I do like about it is that it is a subtle tone, so it's something that you can definitely play around with in terms of how much you want to apply. You can build it up or you can leave it to be very subtle. There are a lot of bronzers in my collection where you don't really have that option all that much, because they are just like, pow, immediate pigmentation. So I do like that a combination of, you know, this being the lightest shade in the range together with the formula allows you for that kind of, you know, flexibility. You're buying the packaging together with the product inside, and the product inside is very much on par with similar like high-end luxury formulas. It is very similar to what I've experienced with Gucci, with Armani, with McGrath Labs, you know, with all the Chanel, all the higher-end formulas. They all feel the same. They're this silky, beautiful blurring powder that can be built up, that looks very natural on the skin, just very lightweight. So here you're actually paying quite a bit also for the packaging and of course the Hermes brand name. But I feel like in this specific case, because the packaging is just not as luxurious feeling as I was hoping for it to be, I'm like, so what was the point of paying 96 euros when I have the same experience with a, you know, Chanel blush, which is also very expensive. It's also like over 60 euros, but at the very least it's not 90. And yes, the packaging is slightly nicer on the Hermes compared to, for example, something like Chanel, but like not 20 euros nicer is my point. Anyway, I'm also going to use the blush that I bought, the shade Rose Tan, and I wanted to compare Rose Tan for you with Beige Coral from Chanel, because one of you requested to do a side-by-side swatch of the two powders. So this is Rose Tan, this is Beige Coral from Chanel. This was one of their Equinox limited edition blushes for fall 2023. Also, several of you actually mentioned that the Hermes blush is scented. And while it is the worst time for me right now to be smelling things because I'm congested, I can tell you that even on the day when I was applying this and I didn't have any congestion that day, I did not at all detect a scent here. So I don't know what's going on. So this is Rose Tan from Hermes and this is Beige Coral from Chanel. Here you have Rose Tan. I think Rose Tan is just a little bit more neutral in tone, a bit more like a true tan color. Beige Coral here indeed leans a bit more like the pumpkin orange coral side. So to me this is just a difference in the level of the tan tone. I think the tan tone in here is much stronger with Hermes, which is something that I actually really enjoy. I really love these sort of like tan colored blushes. So I'm going to also take Rose Tan from Hermes now to apply as my blush. I've also been wearing that blush for the last couple of days, and again I have the same experience as with the bronzer. This formula to me feels very, very similar to, you know, the Chanel one, to the one from Armani, the Luminous Silk from Armani. Like very lightweight, very blendable, very much blurring on the skin. But again, the packaging is just not super impressive. Why is this blush 72 euros? Now, to be fair, the one from Chanel isn't that much far off in terms of the price. It is also in the ballpark of 65 euros. So in that sense, and given that I personally consider the packaging of Chanel to be rather boring and uninspired, I would give it to Hermes for the packaging. I think the packaging just looks more exciting than the one from Chanel. but I guess in terms of the price they're not that different from each other, so I guess I can't be too mad about the blush. The bronzer bothers me just a little bit more than the blush. And something else I of course have to point out with the Hermes blush is that I think the tone is really beautiful and really unique. I don't think it's very easy to find these sort of like 10 colored blushes on the market. Usually these sort of colors are either very orange in tone or very coral in tone, just like with beige coral, but they don't really have that like stronger brown tone to them, which is like the tan tone. So I do think that the color of this is quite special. For highlighter, let's do the oversized Chanel highlighter in the shade Precious Coral, which was part of their holiday collection for 2023. I do think that this highlighter actually fits quite nicely with the tones of the bronzer and the blush, and I don't have a highlighter from Hermes, or plan on picking one based on how I feel about the blush and the bronzer. I'm going to set the powders using Fix Plus by MAC on my sponge here. So starting on the eye look, the first thing I'm going to do is go into the Bronze Seduction palette and this like deep brown shade over here on my little brush from Sonia G. This is from the Maki A set, the Sunset Grains, which I really enjoy using for exactly this purpose, to sort of push really dark shadows into my lashes. So I'm going to apply this as a liner basically. And then I'm going to go in with my lid shade afterwards, so that's going to cover most of this liner, but it will still create a little bit more definition in the lash line. So without really doing a complicated dark look, I can still get that definition by just pushing a little bit of that dark shadow into the lashes. Cleaning off the brush, and I'm just going to smoke it out. Well, not smoke it out, but really just blend around the edges so that it looks a little bit softer. Next I'm going to take the Nocturnal Nirvana quad and one of my favorite one and done eyeshadow brushes. This one is by M-Brush by Maxineshka. This is the number 6, and what I like about this brush is that it's flat but it's also fluffy, so it's beautiful for packing color and blending it out. And I'm going to go with what used to be my least favorite eyeshadow in here, which is this sort of like neutral type of gold. I didn't like this shade, and I think you can also just see from the use on the eyeshadows that this shade and this shade are my most used ones. This one I use quite you really need the tiniest amount from this eyeshadow. I do actually really enjoy using it as a liner, but this one is the one that has gotten the least love because for the longest time I just didn't like it, didn't think it belonged in this quad and didn't know what to do with it. But a couple of years ago I sort of like rediscovered this eyeshadow and now I actually quite enjoy it. So today it's going to be the base color that I apply on my lid, and it's going to sort of be like a one and done eyeshadow moment. Obviously there's going to be a topper, but if you wanted to, you could also just keep it to a one and done moment with this shade. It is very pretty, and I really like that it's not too yellow gold or orangey. It's quite light and neutral champagne in tone. I'm not going to apply any sort of glitter glue because I want to keep the shift quite subtle, but now I'm going to go back into the Bronze Seduction palette, and not surprisingly for anyone, I'm going to take VR Fire Opal over here to apply as our topper moment on the lid, because I think the green just perfectly fits the color of my blazer. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, this beautiful blazer that I bought a couple of days ago, which is basically spring in a piece of clothing. It is so beautiful, I cannot get enough of it. I wore it yesterday as well, and it's very unusual for me to wear the same like garment to work 2 days in a row, but I love this one so much. And I really wanted to do a look centered around it today, so I figured, you know what, I don't care, I'm just going to wear it 2 days in a row. And this is just creating this beautiful like green shift on the lids with a slight flash of pink in certain lights, because of course VR Fire Opal has a little bit of a pink shift to it as well, but you're not really going to see much of the pink shift because of that gold base we put underneath. So I really do like how this is turning out. It is very subtle but very effective, and very much, you know, keeping with the rest of the clothing and like jewelry pieces that I picked out. I also have the most adorable earrings from Alice's Clay Designs with the little like yellow lemons on them. Just the absolute perfect match made in heaven. Love it. Next I'm going to take my beloved Divine Droid Quint and the shade Astral Lime, and yes, you guessed it right, that's going to go in my inner corners, because how can we not have an inner corner green moment when I'm wearing this beautiful blazer? I actually think that I have an eyeshadow from Cliona that would be a better fit for the blazer, because it's much more of the same type of like green hue, but since we're doing Pat McGrath, I thought I'm going to just stick to Pat's eyeshadows, and even if it doesn't fit perfectly, it is still okay. But I think we are going to try one time to do something with this blazer again, and that specific eyeshadow from Cliona that I have in mind. And finally, to complete the look, I'm going to go back into Bronze Seduction, but now I'm going to take the lighter brown shade and I'm just going to run that very lightly here on the lower lashes to complete the look without making it too overly complicated or too dark. And I'm just applying the most amount of pigment close to the lashes. And then I'm going to take the little smudger from Sonia and I'm going to blend the lower lash line out. Let's have a little sparkle moment here to admire the beautiful VR Fire Opal and pretend like you don't see my nose. It will be hard though, because I have a substantially large nose. Anyway, so this is a final look. I agonized over what to do with my lipstick, because I really wanted to wear something like Kitten Mischief or Je ne sais quoi, but I found them just a little bit too pink for what I'm going for today, although I think Kitten Mischief would have probably been fine. But then I realized that I can wear my beautiful new Cyan from Prada. This is one of their soft matte lipsticks. This is a beautiful sienna color, and I love how, you know, vibrant yet neutral it is, and I love how interesting the formula of these soft matte lipsticks from Prada is. I mean, I only have the one, but I'm assuming the rest have a similar texture and formula to them, and these are just so incredibly interesting to me. I love how the final look came together. I think all the tones work really well together, and obviously I'm completely enamored with my little blazer here. I hope that you enjoyed this look as well. Do let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!